that just dig into those deeper issues. And it's both sometimes disturbing what comes out of it, but it's also very enlightening and helpful. And that's one of the things that I appreciate about your work is that you dig by asking good, probing, thoughtful questions. I appreciate that about you.
Thank you.
I started this show because I found that processes were within my control and the results of what I did are never in my control. And I wanted to encourage other creative leaders to concentrate on what would give them the greatest impact for their effort. Can you dive into and expand on some of the differences between process-focused versus outcome or results-focused approach to producing work?
Yeah, I think that results are important, right? But it's all about the process. They better be, right?
Yeah, if you're going to put deposits in the bank and pay the mortgage,
right,
you've got to have some results for your creative endeavors.
Absolutely.
But
it's all about the process. We have to learn to really be in and enjoy the process. I mean, that's the way I see it. And the more we do that, it's like, we're all always trying to go somewhere. We're always trying to get to this point
quickly.
And I feel like this is quickly, and we're trying to get there so fast. And I feel like we're just making our lives harder. The whole thing is a process, even at that result, and you're on to the next thing. I mean, it never really stops. And if we would just stop thinking that everything's going to be a certain way when we get to that point, I think we would feel more ease in our lives and enjoy our work a lot more. Just take action at what you're doing today and chip away, and all of those things add up to the results. They're coming. Again, it's just being here now.
A couple of years ago, I started my tribe of two people called the Chipaways that Linda and I would just talk about what are the things that we have to chip away at this week, because some of the goals or some of the mountains of things that we were trying to work on just seemed too big. Mm-hmm. And all I could ever seem to feel any worth out of at the end was, did I chip away at something? I thought just calling ourselves the Chipaways so that each week we would have something to show for the work. But to that end, what are some of the dangers that you see in pegging your self-worth on the outcome of the work you do?
I think there's a lot of danger in that, because I think we should feel, okay, there's danger in it because, especially as creatives, because art is subjective, right?
Very much so.
So, so to say that, so when somebody goes to critique your work, or I don't know, maybe you're in a meeting and you have this idea and everybody just slams it. And it's like, how do you not take it personally? But at the same time, you can't. The outcome, it's tricky because, again, like it depends on the setting too. If we need to produce results and people need to be happy with our work. But I think that we have to learn how to manage expectations. And so it's like, if you can show up and you can create every day and feel good about what you're creating and be more committed to excellence instead of it being perfect or, being always well received. I think if you can do that, then whatever happens, whether somebody rejects you or you're criticized or you're in that board meeting and you're just like, wow, that really stinks. You're going to come out okay, So that's the way how I say it, the way I approach it for myself, and the rest is truly out of my hands.
Right.
And we can't control those things, fortunately. We can just only control our process, and that's it. and improve. Listen. Like, again, you have to listen. And sometimes we don't want to hear what's on the other side, but there's normally something to take away from it. And I think that when we can always look at each situation and encounter and say, what can I learn from this? It's huge. It's like life stops happening to you and it teaches you constantly. And then you just sit with it and you're like, do I want to take this? Do I want to reject that thought or whatever it was? And you keep going.
Yeah, I think the hardest thing is just sitting with. I mean, even as much as mindfulness and yoga and meditation have been mainstreamed, it's still extraordinarily difficult, even for people who practice those areas of self-awareness. Mm-hmm. It's just so difficult to just sit and listen and just be still. So yeah, as you mentioned this earlier or alluded to it earlier, and as you were just talking about that, I thought about the meetings that you just mentioned. Have you ever been in a place in which imposter syndrome has bubbled up in your life as you're sitting in one of those meetings and stuff is coming to you, that little voice in the back of your head that just says, who are you to be?
Oh, yeah.
Here,
oh my gosh,
whatever.
Yeah.
Have you ever struggled or dealt with that?
Right. I mean, yes, it's more that. I mean,
Is there a day you haven't struggled with it?
I mean, just in my work constantly, I could talk myself out of this any day of the week. Yes.
So how do you not listen to that voice and instead, I guess, power through so as people who are struggling with that universally, I mean, how do you deal with it and how do you counsel that someone deal with that issue out of your experience?
You have to be connected to what you're doing. What is your intention? Is it your work? Is it something personal? Is it, whatever. When you have a deeper connection, you always know your why you're doing something you're doing. And so that's huge. And then it's clarity.
Right.
Like things change and sometimes things turn out different than what you thought they were going to be. But the reason why I'm sitting here talking to you today is because I know my why. My why has never changed. And it's just clear. Like, it's just clear what I'm doing. And I just come back to those two things and I keep going. If I let my mind, take over sometimes, I don't think you and I would be here talking. And so I would just advise people to always know why. Sometimes that simple question, just why, it's huge. Huge.
It is huge. It was something we dealt with that we thought about and integrated in our work indirectly for a period of time. But after reading Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why, we took it deeper and deeper into our work on every level. And it has made a huge difference in our work for clients, but even more so in the work we're doing for ourselves and the types of work that we look for and accept from clients. So I absolutely believe wholeheartedly in that. So agreed. As you look back on any struggles you've had, what are some lessons that you've learned that you believe made you a better person because of those struggles, for having gone through them?
Every struggle has taught me to be more compassionate with myself. And I feel like the more compassionate I can be with myself, the more compassionate I can be with others. It's huge. I feel like that's sometimes the most important thing.
Yeah, that's a huge lesson.
As I get older and I'm like looking back and you see the struggles, I don't know, they make you who you are. And that's a beautiful thing. I think the more we can just look and again, witness what we've been through in our lives and just be like, wow, like here I am. I made it. It's all good. It's great. And again, that comes back to compassion. And so that's probably been the greatest thing I've taken from my struggles. And I always do. I want to acknowledge my struggles, but I also always kind of come back to like the world, like what's going on in the world right now, and it
Right.
keeps things in perspective. Like there's a lot of beauty in the world, and there's a lot of sadness, and I just feel like my struggles are nothing compared to what a lot of people are going through, and I'm not saying that in a way that's the story for everybody, and that my struggles haven't been real, but I do stop and go, right now somebody doesn't have water, or they don't have a roof, and they don't, and that really bounces me back pretty quickly.
It's good to keep perspective.
Yeah.
Especially in first world issues. I've got a friend
that's right.
When she's talking about some of the struggles she's facing in business, we'll look at each other and we go, yeah, first world problems. Glad to have them. Mm-hmm. So perspective is important.
Yep, exactly.
As you look forward in your life, through the next number of years, what do you want your legacy to be? I think of legacy as being something that many people think of when they look back on their lives. But I started thinking a number of years ago that you get to create your legacy if you look forward at what you want it to have been, if that makes sense. If you can project ahead and think back, what do you want to be doing over the next several years to create a legacy? What would you want that to look like?
Professionally, that the essence of WANA is common sense. Personally, I hope that my lifetime, that people will look back and say, she was kind.
That's not a small thing.
No, but I think that's the most important. I think the world needs more kindness.
A lot more.
Yes.
Are there some people who are doing work right now that you have your eye on, that you're admiring what they're doing?
Oh, yes. I'm obviously really focused on the arts, but I'm also very passionate about education, healthcare, and the environment. So a few people that come to mind, or organizations, Green Dot Public Schools, which they are based in Los Angeles. They're a nonprofit, and their mission is to help transform public education so all students graduate prepared for life and college and leadership. They're the largest network of public charter schools, and they currently serve, I think, more than 12,000 students. They're doing incredible work. Let's see, healthcare, the Hirsch Center for Integrative Medicine, which they are based in Olympia, Washington. Obviously, with my background in integrative health and medicine, I'm just a huge supporter of their approach, which is to look past symptoms and diagnoses and to a deeper understanding of the causes of illness and disease. Again, they're doing incredible work. And then environment, water, it's important. And so
I'd say so.
A very, very, very important, dear friend of mine, they have a full service consultancy called Rainkeeper, and they specialize in rainwater harvesting and stormwater management solutions. And their mission is to provide solutions to one of Earth's greatest challenges, which is a rising need and availability of fresh water for a steadily growing global population. So I would highly recommend checking out all of them.
Good. And I'll have the information for each one of those in the show notes.
Thank you.
So that folks can just click and find that as well. So great.
Great.
If there's one thought that you'd like to leave with our community that you believe could make a difference in their lives, what would that be?
Meet the moment.
Good and simple. And how do you want to engage with people in social media if somebody wants to follow up or be engaged with what you're doing?
Yeah, I